How to double your salary, uh, part 13, chapter 3, how to win interviews. As I said, my career I started with a four-figure salary and reached about five times my salary, starting salary after 10 years. Then in the 11th year, I jumped to about 10 times. That's about 60,000 rupees per month. How it happened was when I picked up a job abroad and the foreign exchange difference. That's what made the trick. After that, then I again faced with a much tougher situation. Uh, you recall the story I told about the Maharaja, where in the last couple of chessboard places, he had to sell all the grains of his kingdom. So I was wondering if I am now have to double my salary just after making a 10 times jump, it will be difficult. And then as I go, then I made a rough calculation. I had to reach about 3 lakhs per month, which is not anything which I could think of. I'm talking about 20 years back. So the lesson I learned was don't limit your search for your place and your country, and let the search be global. Apart from the performance on the job, there is something called half step and jump. Uh, if you all are familiar with half step and jump, it's much different from high jump. You would in high jump you would make the maximum jump, but in half step and jump you take a step and then make a jump. So the first step is to get your momentum, and that's how I would say that every time you make a big jump, you have to go for a bigger jump. So after my first job abroad, then I realized it's very difficult to get jumps, the next jump. As a result, what I did was I was just uh, dilly-dallying with my idea what to do next. Then I relaxed for some time as I got a job of my choice. Then it took a while for me to understand the requirements of new job. So then I started building my contacts and exchanged the job salaries all over the world. Uh, I actually found a good analogy with the trees and animals for survival. Trees stay where they are and grow vertical and utilize the resources of water and minerals, whereas animals uh, are free to wander and look for opportunities. At the same time, they also run the risk of being eaten by the uh, predators. So this is something which I was worried about how I can manage my next move. Then something happened, which I would give a title called "Gate Crash" for an interview. So interview is like tossing a coin, and we can say we can win. We cannot say that we can win all the time, but getting an interview call is an art, and that will be winning half the battle. I'll share with you one incident where I almost gate crashed the interview and I got the job. It may not work all the time, but it's worth sharing. Once I met Mr. Campbell in an international conference, and then I managed to get an appointment with him on my way to my summer vacation. I just stopped where Campbell was, and I broke the journey, my air journey, and then it happened in London. So I took a cab and went to meet Mr. Campbell, and unfortunately that day he was very busy. So I was a little bit disappointed. But then instead of keeping quiet, while coming out, I met his secretary and vented my feelings. In fact, I told her that I had came all the way from a different country and going to another country, and then I just dropped in, and I was disappointed that I couldn't meet Miss Campbell. This lady was very smart and clever, and she spoke to somebody, and she arranged an interview with a lady who was, you know, uh, I would say, reluctant to meet me. And after speaking to me for some time, then she realized that I had a relevant experience. Then we discussed about the project which we were talking about. Incidentally, this lady was having some problems in solving the some problem in the project. So when we discussed, I shared my experience, and then we hit upon very quickly, and then I gave her some few tips on how to get over the project hitch. And I finished my the so-called interview, and then went back home. And after vacation, I went back to my original job. Then uh, I got a call from Campbell, and uh, he appreciated me for the solutions I suggested to that lady that day in the interview, and uh, uh, I could easily get an offer of my choice and uh, on my terms. So this is something which I thought is rare, but it's worth sharing. And the other one I was telling is that in the interviews, to declare you are looking for a job. You may find sometime you may not be going, but if by saying that you are available for a job, it will be useful. And that's how I met Mr. Campbell in one of these conferences, and I could get that break. A similar thing happened when I was looking for a job, and one of our friends suddenly, remembered that I was looking for a job, and then he spoke to uh, another person, and I got an offer. So it's always better you declare that you are looking for a job. In fact, I, on a lighter vein, would always tell my friends that you should have two pockets, the shirt pocket and the trouser pocket. Uh, Keep a resignation letter in your shirt pocket and an offer letter in your trouser pocket. So always you should have some offers, so that anytime you can take up another job of better salaries if the things turn out to be tough. Uh, One more experience I had was accepting lower position to gain experience. Uh, I was having an experience in petrochemicals, and I was wanted to come back in a senior position in the refineries, and refinery project. They didn't have higher positions, so I had to accept that position, and in fact, it was very useful to me uh, to get into next higher level because of my experience in uh, that project. So this is something which everybody has to consider. And before I close down this interview chapter, I would uh, share one more experience. Negotiating nay to yay. See, another interesting incident was how I retrieved a lost job. Getting through an interview is one thing, and getting a job after receiving rejection is another different ball game. I got a gap of few months while I completed one project and waiting for another project. In the meantime, instead of sitting idle, I applied for a job. Unfortunately, I was rejected for the job as I was overqualified. But I took it as a challenge, and here is an interesting story how I got the job. Mr. Adel interviewed me for a job where he was bidding for a project in the company which I just worked and about to leave the place. He wanted to get a leverage on the managing the project. So finally, when the interview took place, Adel looked at my previous experience, and then he thought I was overqualified, or in fact, my salary was very high. So he uh, felt I may not stick to the job, and he didn't offer me the job. So I took it as a challenge, and then approached him after about a week and suggested if he hires me, I can help him get the project, and he can pay me on a percentage basis, if not on a salary. He took the challenge, and then he offered me the job. Finally, I worked there for a couple of months before I took up a project and helped this person to back the contract based on my experience. And this is something which many times work out. But I would say the best thing is that always wait for the big catch, and uh, you have to sometimes forego the offers, or maybe take up a part-time job, which I did also once. While I was waiting for a job, I took a consultancy job in the Middle East, and I have gained the experience, which ultimately was useful to me uh, to start my own company after my retirement. Uh, so this is the thing which I would like to. One more experience, I would say that do your homework before the interview. Sometimes the interviewer may be desperately looking for a replacement. Sometimes interviewer may be have a future requirement, and he may be looking for the suitable candidates. You better you know that what exactly is the uh, requirement. In this context, I recall few decades, or maybe in the middle of 20th century, there was a South American country where Sun Oil bagged the contract against all odds, beating competition from Shell, Exxon, and other MNCs. How they did it? Because Sun Oil at that time was a small company, their executive attended or reached the South American capital, and then he found out they were looking for they were in emergency shortage for grains. So Sun Oil quoted a shipment of food grains along with the quotation for drilling oil, and they got it. So there are some few tips in winning the interviews which we could cover in the next episode. So now part 13, uh, how to win the interviews chapter ends now, and wait for the next part and few tips for winning interviews. Thank you. Signing off, Rajsekhar, Polapragada.